Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday on January 6th, 2025, 4 Kenyans who had been reputedly been abducted and detained in Communicado by the William Ruto regime were released, and the list includes Kibet Bull, also known as Yoko, and his brother Ronny Kiplagat. The third is Billy Mwangi, and finally Bernard Kavuli. Now in this video, I want us to look at 3 reasons why the William Ruto regime decided to release these 4 Kenyans who had been abducted a couple of days ago. And without wasting time, let's get after it. The first reason is that the fear for Raila Odinga's African Union chairmanship bid. Now, the government of President William Ruto began to see it as a shameful thing for the country to flag their candidate to go contest for the position of African Union chairmanship, and at the same time be perpetuating abductions and forced disappearances of his citizens. Not long ago, there's a South African journalist who asked Raila Odinga very difficult questions, and I'm just going to read to you so that we can be on the same page. Now, this is Sophie Makwena, a prominent South African journalist who tabled very difficult questions to Raila Odinga, and I just want to read it to you so that we can be on the same page. She says that, "My question to Raila Odinga: you are campaigning for the position of the AU Commission Chair. Why must Africa consider you when your country can't provide answers on the abduction cases in Kenya? You want to lead the continent when you are failing to lead your own country." And I tend to agree with her, because how can it be that a statesman, somebody who refers to himself as a statesman, as a Pan-Africanist, somebody who is a pro-human rights, how can such kind of a person be tabled from a country that has now been known to perpetuate abductions, to perpetuate forced disappearances, a country whose citizens are getting abducted, are getting detained without being arraigned in court? How can such a country table a candidate to go contest for the African Union chairmanship seat? I think this is precisely one major reason as to why the William Ruto regime decided that despite their anger, despite the anger that they had towards all these young people, the Gen Zs who had been abducted for criticizing the government on social media by use of cartoons, animations, and all sorts of things, this regime decided that despite all this, they are going to release these 4 abducted persons so that at least they can cool down the temperatures. Ladies and gentlemen, I am tempted to believe that had Raila Odinga not been contesting for the position of AU chairmanship seat, probably these 4 would have never been released. Number 2, the fear of consequences from the US government. Remember, just a couple of days down the line, the US government had joined other humanitarian organizations to condemn the forced disappearances and ongoing abductions being perpetuated by the William Ruto regime. This is just a poster that was made by Nation Media. I'll just read it for you. Now, this is US to Kenya. Stop the abductions. US joint calls for accountability and respect for the rule of law, and this message was passed by Nairobi Embassy Charge d'Affaires Mark Dillard. I think this was a wake-up call to the William Ruto administration that it's not going to be business as usual. The William Ruto regime decided that if they do not produce these abducted persons, probably the US government is going to levy heavy sanctions against the government of Kenya. The US is known to punish governments that are not democratic. The US refer to itself as a democratic country, and therefore military aid. The other day, Biden had promised to give William Ruto a number of helicopters and other military equipment. If this government of President William Ruto cannot abide by the principles of democracy, then it would not be surprising to see the US government withdraw the kind of support that it had pledged, or rather the kind of support that it has been giving the Kenyan government in the last couple of years. Now, number 3, and finally, the reason as to why William Ruto and his regime decided to release these 4 abducted persons. And I say that it is William Ruto who released them, because if these individuals are being abducted in Kenya, the government cannot claim that they are not aware. Tunasema mkono mrefu ya serikali. The government has a long hand. So if these individuals are being abducted and nobody seems to know anything about it, then it suffices to say that it is the government actually perpetuating these abductions. So the third reason as to why Ruto and his entourage, or rather his regime, decided to release these 4 abducted persons is due to his 2027 political interests. Remember, just a few days ago, Eugene Wamalwa had threatened to go to the streets if these 4 abducted persons are not released. And I'm going to play you that clip.
Rais alisema hakuna utekaji nyara katika taifa hili. Kidogo Bond kule Homa Bay tumemwona akiwa na Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga akisema sasa anatoa amri utekaji nyara ukome katika taifa la Kenya. Inamaanisha amekubali kuna utekaji nyara katika taifa letu, amekuwa anajua yale yanayoendelea, haswa wale kile kikosi ambacho Mheshimiwa Rigathi ameguzia, Mheshimiwa Bikarua ameguzia, kikosi speciali ambacho kimeundwa kwa mambo ya utekaji nyara, ambacho hakiko chini ya IG wa polisi na kinajulikana na kiko answerable directly na ikulu ya Mheshimiwa Rais. Kwa hivyo he knows what has been happening, na sisi kama upinzani tuamwambia sasa karibu ni masaa zaidi ya 60, it's over 48 hours tangu utoe agizo la kukomesha utekaji nyara. Watoto hawa hawajapatikana, hawajulikani walipo. Tunataka tukiwa hapa tutoe ilani kwake, kama itafika mwaka mpya tarehe 1 na watoto hawa hawajapatikana, haitakuwa tena ni kumuomba atekeleze yale aliahidi kule Homa Bay. Itakuwa sasa ni Wakenya wajitokeze. Kile kimeonekana Embu, Bwana Ruto, you ain't seen nothing yet. Embu ni mwanzo tu. Tutasema kila kaunti Kenya hii Wakenya wajitokeze, wazazi wajitokeze. Mambo haya si ya wajenzi tena, ni yetu sisi sote kama Wakenya. We cannot allow a constitutional democracy tuwe na udikteta eti hawezi kosoa serikali, na ukikosoa serikali unatekwa nyara, unauawa.
Hii statement ya Eugene Wamalwa ya kuthreaten kuingia kwa streets ndo iliingiza Ruto njeve. Remember also a couple of Gen Zs and millennials on social media, especially on Twitter, had threatened to march to the streets. Not only had they threatened, but they also marched to the streets in the Nairobi CBD and also other regions in the country. And the protests actually brought businesses and activities to a standstill. Now, William Ruto had seen that he actually desires a peaceful country. He does not desire a country whereby protests and demonstrations, people wearing sackcloths, people carrying flags and water bottles. Ruto does not want a country of chaos and mayhem. I believe that. And that is the reason as to why he decided eventually to release these 4 people. Everybody else has been condemning these abductions, and that is precisely what has been putting a lot of pressure to the presidents, including Kalonzo Musyoka, who had given a very long statement condemning the abductions and telling William Ruto to release the abducted persons, because it is everyone's knowledge that it is the presidency that has been perpetuating this. Now, another thing that made William Ruto to actually release these people is to stop the tensions and the rhetoric of Rigathi Gachagua. Remember, Rigathi Gachagua had exposed certain individuals that were heading the abductions program. And Rigathi Gachagua promised to expose more and more of these people and their activities. As things stood, William Ruto could not wait for Rigathi Gachagua to expose the entire administration. So that is why he had to release this 4 abducted persons. Here's the clip of Rigathi Gachagua giving his maiden exposure.
Na mimi nimesema juzi iko mtu anaitwa Abel ambaye he is a cousin to a very top official of this administration. Nimeona watu ya national intelligence wanakoroga na watu ya media wanalete Abel mwingine alikuwa DCI ndio wapotoshe sisi. That is not the Abel. Yule Abel tunamjua na tutamtaja. And he is a cousin to somebody very senior. Na tukitoa picha yake mtaona wanafanana.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, this is just but my opinion. Do let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. If you're watching for the first time, please get over to YouTube and search for Patrick Odero, and I guarantee you will be treated to a ton of recent content on polity, politics, and governance issues in Kenya. I am committed to informing, educating, and entertaining in a manner that mainstream media cannot. All right, guys, let us interact in the comment section. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below so that I can have an idea of what your thoughts and opinions are. All right, let's meet up in the next video. That's coming after this.